Hey everyone, welcome back to Verified Gains. Happy Monday. We are finally in the month of June 2025, and a lot of things have been going on in terms of the price action. So let's dive right into the markets. Let's start out with Bitcoin, the main one. Since my video on the 26th, so it was, just about a week ago, we actually had 4 consecutive red days. It actually eventually broke down below the support line at $106,000 and retested, but we ended up consolidating below it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and change this to a red color to depict a resistance line. And so we're back down below 106. Things were looking very good, excuse me, but we ended up going back down, which is a little bit unfortunate. And we'll see if we can, obviously stay near it, maybe continue knocking on the door, continue retesting, and hopefully break above it. Otherwise, the next leg down, I'd say maybe there's a local support line around 102, 103. But otherwise, it's all the way back to $98,000. Now, from a big picture perspective, and the way that I look at it is number one, the RSI, the relative strength index, has cooled down a little bit because for a while, in the month of May, we're in the overbought territory. And now it has cooled down to the midpoint over here, which is good. So that is a good thing because, every market needs a little bit of pullback, a little bit of cool down before people, you know, have the confidence to buy back in. Because a lot of the time when we're in the overbought territory, people tend to get a little bit fearful because, a lot of people say, okay, people are getting overly greedy. Maybe it's time to sell some of my positions to capitalize and let the market cool down a little bit. And that might be what we're seeing over here. Now, when we do turn on the Pi cycle top indicator, this movement down from 110, 111 to our current price of 104 really has not affected the 111-day moving average thus far. We're still showing signs of upward motion over here. And that is exactly where we want to be. So we do want to be in between these true trend lines. And the hope is that we'll continue to course upwards toward the green trend line, which is the 350-day moving average multiplied by 2. So that is all I have for Bitcoin right now. I'll be a little weary until we break back above 106 and consolidate before making any big moves. Next, let's move on to Solana. So Solana, about a week ago, we were sort of discussing what's going to be the price action once end of May comes around and June 1st. Now, what ended up happening was, things were looking good. There are two possibilities, obviously, but, I was actually hoping that we do have a break above 180 at the end of May, but we actually preemptively on the 28th started breaking down, okay, below the white trend line. So at this time, we can confidently remove this because it's no longer valid. And I said, okay, if we're going to come down, the next support line is $148, which is where we ended up, retesting and consolidating slightly above it in the low 150s. And that is where we are right now. So current price of $154. We might end up, retesting 148 a couple more times. But largely, we're going to have to really see Bitcoin move above 106 before we see any layer ones recover. And the reason is, we're really not at alt season yet. I don't think there really is any reason for us to be. Of course, I could be wrong. But right now, I believe the markets are largely going to be dependent on Bitcoin's price action. And we really have to stay above 106 and continue to go upwards before we see any explosive movements on the layer one. So that is my prediction. I imagine if that happens, then we'll retest 180, and the next step is to break above and consolidate at levels above $180. And at that point, that would be a good place for me to dollar cost average. However, we still have a long ways to go until the previous all-time high of 295. So we'll see what the month of June brings for us. But for now, we just had a recent pullback, so we'll have to see. Lastly, I did want to go over Popcat, my favorite meme coin. The RSI has cooled down significantly. We're almost approaching the oversold territory. So, basically, I think this is people just securing some of their positions, and which is fine, which is respectable. Okay. I actually ended up dollar cost averaging on the red days. So I'm just going to check my account really quickly to see what those dates were. So this is my video post. I bought on the 29th and the 31st. So let's see. Yeah, so those were the two big days, right? So 29, there's a negative 9% red candle over here. The next day, I kind of want to see how things played out. And once I realized that we held the support line at 35 cents, the next day I went ahead and dollar cost averaged in. Okay, and this is exactly why I make these videos, because looking at it from a technical analysis perspective is definitely helpful, and you don't have to do any crazy metrics or something so overly complicated. Just keep it simple, and I tend to keep it simple when the asset is complicated. So for example, maybe if I'm investing in a blue chip like Apple or Google, maybe I'm able to use more complex data sets and trend, models. So it's the exact opposite, right? So for me, when the underlying asset, or like the asset that I'm investing in, is complicated or very volatile, then I try to keep the TA stuff as simple as possible. So for Popcat, it's just horizontal support, horizontal resistance, looking where we are with the all-time high. I mean, in the past, I did draw this trend line over here. Since then, it really is no longer valid. So now what's the next move for Popcat? Well, I'm glad that the 35-cent support line held up. And remember, it's really going to be a trickle down effect. So number one, we're going to have to see Bitcoin really move up above 106. Number two, we're going to have to see Solana bounce back above 180. And then after that has been said and done, then we expect to see some Popcat movement, hopefully back towards 60 cents. And then just roughly looking at the data, I would say, the next level is 67 cents, and then probably around $1.18. So just a rough estimate, but those are the next key levels that I'm going to be looking at. Until then, it's really just about looking, okay, is it holding up at the 35-cent line? And then am I dollar cost averaging on big red days, or any red days for that matter, as long as I have capital. In any case, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening in. If you're into Solana and especially Popcat, please make sure to subscribe so you can be part of the community. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.